things as they happen. Williams told me that everyone has had bad things and bad cards dealt to him, but it's how you play him that matters. Silly trivial things don't seem so important to Williams anymore after hearing the news that this young man had taken his own life. Williams reflected on his own life and immediately deleted his Facebook account. He said that if anyone needed to contact him, they knew his number or they knew where to find him. Gives me goosies, this bit. What he learnt that night was that he never wanted this to happen to any of his friends, and all he wanted was that if anyone was suffering in silence like Kenny, they should know that all he had to do was talk to him. Williams told me he was very lucky. He could count his friends on more than one hand. They say that, don't they? That you can count your friends, and your true friends on one hand. Those that will believe in you, regardless of what you've done. It was 2 days later I received a text from Rose saying that she was thinking of him at this sad time. Chapter 9. The end. Well, things moved on from our mate Williams. Text from Rose that started off from being polite inquiries about how he was doing, gradually turning into much more and very quickly. Lengthy conversations grew into deep and meaningful exchanges of mutual feelings between the pair of them. I tried over the months to clean his house, get his iron under control. I drew the line at cleaning his toilet and pressing his boxes and generally getting him ready for taking Rose back to his fucking abode. As I look back on how our friendship had grown, I kind of smile. The first few weeks had been a case of getting to know each other, followed by learning about each other's views and opinions and what made them laugh. Well, I had to listen to his point of view. Then he would just watch TV while I told him mine, but we made each other laugh. It was the ability to throw sarcasm at each other that made us laugh. I'd learnt that his morals were rock solid, and he taught me so many things. He told me that I had taught him things, and that was enough reward. I'd been torn between hating him and wanting him more as a friend. But as the weeks progressed, I realised that was never going to happen and could never compete with his English Rose. I'd realised that he could never give me what I wanted or needed. I wanted someone who made me laugh, but cared about me more as a mate. Someone who came up from behind me, washed the pots and grabbed me, turned me round, put his hands through my hair, masterfully kissed me until I passed out. And then when I came round, he'd drag me upstairs and... Readers, just what sort of book do you think this is? Well, it ain't 50 Shades of Grey, that's for sure. I wanted someone who knew if I was happy or sad or worried. Someone who wanted to share the good things in life, KFC, black pure lights, a day under the quilt watching telly. And anyway, Williams didn't regard me like that. He was my mate, and that is a very privileged position to be in. So, picture this. His house is sorted. There's no longer 2 inches of burnt toast on the worktops. Everywhere's spotless. Well, actually, readers, I'm fucking lying. I only did it once and realised it was a waste of time. I might be thoughtful and caring, but I ain't flogging a fucking dead horse for no one. Williams had changed, but thankfully not completely. He hadn't lost what made him unique. The humour, the caring side that he tries to hide and only shows it to those in his inner circle, and his ability to tell tall stories were all still there. But he had begun to think about things more, especially things that had potential to be taken the wrong way by people. He was still scathing to people that deserved it, but still made everyone around him happy. In fact, Williams was beginning to question his assumption that I'd always thought that Rose was out of his league. Maybe, just maybe, he thought. She was out of his league. Now at long last, William realised no one was out of his league. But things happened quickly. It was a week to the next 6-month school reunion, and I said I'd still go. I asked Williams, was he going? And he said, nah mate, I've got a text from Rose. And she said, yeah, so will you hand me that Ralph Lauren polo for me? What's the magic word, mate? I said to him. And he just ignored me and went, just do a fucking good job, mate. No, don't wear that, mate. The check shirt's better. Show your physique. Show your physique, okay? I replied, it didn't really. I burnt a fucking big hole right into his Ralph Lauren shirt. I rolled it up and hid it behind the wardrobe. I wasn't going to fork out fucking 150 quid for a new one, I can tell you. I wished him luck, hugged him, because I knew it was going to be a fucking success. And you know why? Because he actually deserved it to be. So, as he got ready, I went home to get changed for the reunion. This time it didn't have the same kind of appeal as the last one. The last one was where I had met my mate, and no one would ever be a mate like he had been to me. But nevertheless, I set off. I decided to drive and stay sober, as I wanted to maintain a certain classy air about me. As this time, I didn't want to appear like a younger version of Vinegar Vera. As I was getting ready, Williams was driving to meet Rose. This was the moment he'd waited for over 40 years for. He didn't tell me the details of what had happened that night. I had to read about it in the week later. Been driving along a road and at a patch of black ice. His BM had swerved and gone fucking headlong to a lamppost. The car was squashed up like a concertina, or so the fucking Salford City reporters said. There's not many people who get themselves into reporter twice in 6 months, is there? And on the front page too. Anyway, sirens blaring, and the ambulance didn't fucking wake him as he was drifting between this world and the next. I just started to park my car in town. When my phone rang, I didn't even recognise the whole number, but I instantly recognised it as a Salford one. The voice said, "Hello, Salford Royal. I'm Nurse Brown. We've had a man admitted into A&E, and your number is the last one he rung. Could you possibly come down and help us identify the man, please?" I asked who the man was in the morgue. The nurse informed me that he wasn't dead, but he was in a really bad way, and could I get there as soon as possible. There's only one person I knew it could be. Williams. He'd only rang me about an hour before, just to say that he found the Ralph Lauren fucking shirt behind the wardrobe, and that he wanted a ton off me to get a new one. Cheeky bastard. That's the fucking thanks you get. I started the engine and drove as fast as I could to get to the hospital, so that I could get there in time just to say goodbye to my mate. I ran through the corridors of the fucking hospital, the A&E department, and asked the nurse to take me to the room where Williams was. The nurse knew him from a previous day, after he had received an injury from a firearm. He told his kids, and me, it was a bullet from an elephant gun in the Congo jungle. And as all tall stories go, it was one of the fucking less believable. I went in the room, and there he was lying in bed. He was wired up like the fucking $6 million man. He had a saline drip inserted into his arm. Readers, I'm not ashamed to say that I had tears running down my face. I can't tell you how I felt because I was numb. I was going to lose my newly found friend. This what choked me when I was reading this. Douche. I was going to lose my newly found friend. He'd been on the way to meet the love of his life, and that chance had been snatched away from him. I leaned over, patted his chest, the chiseled one from Salford's finest, and as I whispered my last goodbye, I knew it was serious. I asked the nurse, did she think he would pull through? And she didn't answer, but she just simply put her hand on my shoulder, and I was gutted. There had been times when I'd hated him. I could have murdered him, and quite easily, but I would have fucking hated to see anything happen to him. I left the room and walked slowly down the corridor into the cold air outside. I sat in the car, put the seatbelt on, and switched the radio to try and take my mind off losing my mate. I should have stayed to wait for the flatline to fucking appear on the middle of the screen above his bed door until I could no longer hear the beeping sound which signified the end of his life. But I couldn't. I couldn't stay, and I couldn't watch him fade away quietly from this world. He lived life every day with an energy that I totally admired. I didn't want to see my mate go gently up to that fucking escalator to heaven. I thought that if he was going to die, he'd go in a blaze of glory, just like all the good ones did. I turned the engine on. The man on the radio just finished reading the news, the usual war zone reports and other shocking events from around the world. It was all insignificant. And then let's introduce this song. Next we have Stone Roses, Resurrection. He said, at that point, I fucking knew it was going to be okay. All didn't seem lost. There was a glimmer, a light that never went out. His mate Blindsey was right. if he'd been in a fucking plane, he'd have landed in the sea, warm, and swam to the shore. And I knew. I just knew. Chapter 10. Resurrection. I went to the hospital every day. In the week I went at night for the evening, or visiting hours at the weekends, or I went in the day. This routine lasted for like a month. There were days when I arrived at the door of his private room, looked at him lying on the fucking bed, his face was just so ashen, and I just thought, he's gone to meet his maker. I made friends with the nurses who looked after him. Well, they came and checked him regularly and did all they could. A couple of them fucking remembered him from his last day a few years before. I asked one nurse, Philomena, if he'd been a good patient. I couldn't fucking believe for one moment, but she answered me as honestly as she could and said, "You'd been someone who tested her patience." Well, let's put it this way, my dear. I've worked here for nearly 25 years and I've had to fucking nurse anyone so fucking cheeky. Then the words of the Williams, he says,
"Can I have some more soup, love? Can I have a brew, love? I've just got a little bit of pepper to go on my spuds. Have you got a couple of extra pillows, nurse? Oh, that toast was nice, nurse. But just eat the same again. Any chance?"
She smiled at his off request, and I got the distinct impression that she was giving the answer to my question in a polite way as possible. Did you always give him what he wanted? Oh, Jesus, no. I drew the fucking line at the fish and the chips and the mushy peas. And the balm from the battered cod. And young nurse Jodie Hutway said no to his request at being fucking rubbed down with Johnson's baby oil to ease his aching muscle. That just sounded like the Williams I knew. If you gave him an inch, he'd take a fucking mile. But this time they'd not bombarded him with any requests for extra servings of jam and ricola or custard or another 6 rounds of toast. This time he just lay silent and still with just a regular beep. The monitor that sounded like a guard at the sound of his bed. His children went and tried to tell him about their days, about how done at school and about the weekends. I went when it was quiet and just sat and watched the screens for a sign of a flicker. I just looked at his face to see if it twitched. I made things up to see if he'd wake up. I'd even tell him that Rose was visiting him that night, or that Cantona had heard about him being in a coma and he was going to fly to him from Paris and bring him a signed shirt. I even told him Morrissey had sent him a fucking get well card. Nothing worked. I just read the football reports from the daily papers. I made them up half the time just to make them more fucking exciting. I told him what the nurses had said about the fact that they needed to import a special urine bottle for him to... because he was just too small. Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah. And that it had arrived from fucking Taiwan in a counter on a courier box that said, labelled, contents, urine bottle, python size. Yeah, that's Williams. I hated making things up, but I thought my words would reach his ego that had been lying dormant for nearly a month. But then again, nothing. I didn't know whether to stop going and just wait for the hospital to ring me one day and tell me that he'd either woken up or faded away. His eldest daughter allowed to the fact he would wake up and start moaning for a brew in her sick. She told me he wanted him to see a grandchild that was due to be born any day. I wasn't so sure he would. Part of me wanted him because he had not been the perfect man whilst he was in coma, or he listened, or he appeared to, without constantly interrupting. He called me Vanessa Feltz, criticised me driving or me cooking. It was perfect, only it wasn't fucking making me laugh anymore. He wasn't making anyone laugh either, and that was a huge part of him. I sat on the plastic visitor's chair and looked at his face, and I wondered if he knew if anything was going on around him. Did he know how long he'd been given? Was he too cold? Was he too warm? Did he know City would regain the title? He fucking would do, so